we saw digitization starting to happen back in the 90s when we were, it happened a little bit before that, but like you started to really see it with the internet. We were taking brochures, we were putting them online. So catalogs no longer had to be mailed. And at first it wasn't really accepted, but it started to happen. We started to see books move into digital format. We started to see a lot of different things that we did every day become digitized. More and more sensors were implemented into different tools. You got the Internet of Things. So all of a sudden, things that weren't really visible to us on a day-to-day basis, now we're, oh, it's digitized and we have ready access to it easily. The next thing that happens is then we go through a deceptive phase. So as we start to digitize things, it's happening, but it's happening in very small pockets. So there's the Moore's law, where you kind of start with the innovators and then you move your way in. It takes a while till it gets into the early majority and then especially the later majority. And so a metaphor to think about is bamboo. When you plant bamboo, it takes about 5 years under the ground for that to start to grow and do anything. And you don't see anything from the surface level. It's all hidden, it's under the ground. Then, after that 5 years has happened, you'll see in 5 weeks it starts to grow. And then, because it sprouts up, and then all of a sudden, within that 5 weeks, you've got a 25-meter tall bamboo plant. And you're like, oh my gosh, that just grew out of nowhere. No, it didn't come out of nowhere. It came from 5 years of all this hard work that the plant was doing under the ground. And we often see this in our technology where you're like, oh my gosh, it's a big, gigantic event and it's so disruptive and innovative. But if you were paying attention and really focusing in on maybe some of the research and the different things that were happening, you will see there was a lot of time and energy that went in for many years, sometimes decades, before that technology became available. And then all of a sudden it shot up out of nowhere and seems like a big surprise to the industry. So it looks to be deceptive. So we start digitizing and then things look deceptive. But if you are paying attention, you can start to see that. Now, what happens is once it starts to shoot up and become visible, it's disruptive. And this is where you see the disruption starts to impact organizations. We saw this in books with Kindle. We saw this in videos with Netflix, and then all you got your audio music now is digitized and it's disruptive. And the existing organizations were struggling to stay alive because these new incumbents came in and said, hey, I'm going to take advantage of this digitized world and disrupt the whole industry. But again, the technology to do that was being built and was there. And sometimes the organizations that were already established chose not to go and even follow those. They thought, oh, it's not going to happen. I remember in the 90s, oh, the internet's not going to be anything. Well, now we can't live without the internet, right? And now it's social media. You saw what happened when they tried to take away some of these social media. So it's things that are changing. They take a while for us to really grasp the impact of them. But when we finally see it, it appears to be very disruptive, as if it came out of the blue. So again, it's a constant pattern that you see with all the different different types of emerging technologies. Then you get into the demonetization phase of it. Within the demonetization phase, now what's happening is the money starts to disappear in those old business models. People aren't showing up to rent a physical movie, right? The money that was being made by those companies is no longer a type of service that people want to pay for. So it starts to get demonetized. So that old way of making money is not the way of the future. And so as a business owner, when you see this happening, if you try to hang on, you're going to see a shrinkage in your organization. If you can find a way to look at, well, what is the new way, and you pivot your strategy and your business operating model to take advantage of the new way, then you'll be able to find ways that you can pivot and grow your organization despite the industry being disrupted. And if we keep looking at the old way, that has to do a lot with like a scarcity mindset when we think about the old way versus a new abundance mindset. Next thing that's going to happen is you're going to have the dematerialization. So this is really where you start to see the analog objects start to disappear. So in the 80s, you had to have computers and faxes and, Rolodexes for your contacts, and you had all of these different things. In fact, the software that we used to have in the 1980s that cost roughly $8,000-ish, you now have for free on your phone. It just comes with your phone already. So the power that you have with your phone right now is so much greater and better quality in one single object. It's all been dematerialized, put into apps. All these things that you used to have carry around that took up space and cost a lot of money and didn't have the same quality. So again, it's a pattern. This is the pattern that happens with any of these new emerging technologies. And then we get to the final state. And this is the democratization stage of it. We know there is a lot of inequality in the world. And then at the same time, there's also more quality in certain domains, like the quality of a lot of the way you take pictures and the information that you have access to and everything has just increased significantly. Today, the phone that you carry actually has more information that presidents and heads of states had back in the 70s and 80s. We have more access to information today. The quality of the information maybe is a little bit skeptical at times, with some of the misinformation that now has been occurring, but we have that access that presidents and heads of states didn't have, and they were making decisions for entire countries. Information has been democratized. And that's one of the big things in the fourth industrial revolution is that we have that democratization.